Good night. Thanks for tuning in for leadership conversations with myself. It's truly a privilege and an honor to join you all this Monday evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I appreciate every single person. I thank you all for giving me your Monday evenings that we're able to kind of sit and chat and talk about our leadership, have our leadership discussions. It's always a privilege to be able to join you guys tonight. I'm excited. We're in the middle of November. I want to give a shout out to my brother whose birthday is today, my oldest brother Junior. Today's his birthday, so just wanted to take the time out to shout him out. It's crazy. We're halfway through November. Next week, before you even know it, before you realize it, it's Thanksgiving, right? It's Thanksgiving. Good evening. Excuse me, Sister Cheryl. Good evening, Pastor Lambert. Thanks for tuning in. It's crazy because we're really close to Thanksgiving, so I'm sure everyone is thinking about their bellies, thinking about the food that they're going to eat, where they're going to go. But one thing I wanted to say is that I think more than ever we have a reason to be thankful. We have a reason to be grateful, especially with all that we've experienced in 2020 and 2021. Listen, it's the simple things that we got to realize that we got to be grateful for. Sister Cheryl, thank you so much for tuning in. Good night. Yeah, we have to be appreciative of all that we have, right? Sometimes we've taken for granted, and the things that God has given us, the privileges that God has given us, the things that we didn't think were as important, but we have more than enough reason to be grateful. And so I'm truly appreciative. Brother Henry, thanks for tuning in, bro. How's it going? Yeah, so as you take the time to kind of prepare for Thanksgiving, I want us to all keep that that mindset of gratitude, that feeling of love and appreciation for all that God is doing, because when you really think about it, and I had to take a moment last week and really just sit and reflect and think about how the things that we've been able to do in 2021, and not realizing until sitting with my wife and discussing and outlining certain things, certain accomplishments that we were able to accomplish. You really sit and really think about, man, there's so much things that God has done for us in 2021 that, because of all of the madness and all of the chaos, that you forget, right? You forget about those things that God has done, because everything seems so chaotic and so much louder. But when you take that moment to really sit back and reflect and really think about the goodness of God and goodness of Jesus and all that He's done for me, right? All that He's done, you really realize that God has done a lot for us in this year. And so it's truly a privilege to give God thanks and to be grateful, especially in this time, in this season. We're literally a month and a half before 2022. So yeah, we're still standing, we're still alive, we're still breathing. So it's about having the gratitude. I was watching something with Tony Robbins. I've been really like tuning into his stuff, and he tells a story that every morning he starts off his day with gratitude. And I've come to notice that many successful people, before they jump into the craziness of their schedule, before they go to social media, before they read and open up their emails, before they start on their day, the first thing they do is have a moment where they're just grateful for all that they have. They think about all the things that they've accomplished, all the things that they are able to achieve. They're grateful for their families. They're grateful for the right friends, the right connections. And I think when we start to have that practice, right, I think we sometimes as believers we forget the importance of that. We forget the importance of really just taking the time and just sitting and thanking God and being grateful for all that we have. We have a home to live in. We have a family. We have shoes on our feet, clothes on our backs, right? Many of us, we have jobs that we can go to. He shared an interesting fact that if you make over, I believe he said something like $18,000 a year. If you make over $18,000 a year, then you fall in the 1% of the world that makes wealth, or the world that 1% of those who have wealth, because there's a whole 99% of people out there who are living on $900 a month, a year, and trying to survive off of that. So just to give perspective, as we're jumping into Thanksgiving, we really got to be grateful for all that God has done for us and all that He's doing. And so wanted to share that off before we kick off our conversation. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Continuing our conversation about the voices in my head, the voices in our head. It's interesting because I started this. It was just an idea that I had, um, what I was thinking about, and thought about doing it as a topic, and I got so much positive feedback because so many people don't realize, or it helped to bring that realization or that awareness that we all have the voices in our head, right? And the voices can be anything from the fear, from doubt, from rejection, from hurt, from past traumas. There's so many different things that we deal with on a subconscious level that really affects how we operate and how we function. And ultimately, as leaders, it's our responsibility to help one ourselves and to help others navigate through the noise, right? Help navigate through the noise of the concerns, the noise of I can't do it, the noise of I'm not good enough, the noise of my I come from a poor neighborhood, all the noise that tries to keep people from really fulfilling their purpose. And as leaders, it's our job to learn how to navigate. We got to be equipped to navigate through this journey that we call life, and through this journey that we call vision building. It's a journey, right? And it's like whenever I think of leadership, I always think of a captain steering a ship, right? The captain is steering the ship through the waters. You don't know. There's so many different creatures under the waters. There's so many things going on that you can't see, right? There's so many different things that you can't see, that's coming up, that can come up against you, but you're still trying to navigate through the waters. You're still trying to navigate through the journey, right? And so some days you'll have clear blue skies and the water is level, and some days you'll have turbulent waters and you'll have storms. And so how do we as leaders become equipped? And ultimately, the point of keen vision, the ultimate goal of our conversations is to help to be equipped for the journey, help to be equipped for the turbulent waters, as well as the the good times, right? It's very easy to see people operate in as leaders, and they make it seems as if everything is all good, and it's an all good journey. But there are challenges, and if you're not equipped to deal with the challenges, then you're not going to be able to effectively lead. Andy Stanley says that the goal of leadership is not to eradicate uncertainty, but rather to navigate it. And so it's our job as leaders to navigate through the uncertainty. And then with that, it requires us to have a strong, keen ear and a keen ability to discern. So starting this conversation, it started off as just a one time topic, but it has kind of organically evolved into a series. And so I'm continuing it as a series. The Voices in My Head series. Today will be the third part. Um, eventually, in the next couple of weeks, I want to start bringing other leaders on to have this conversation with me. I'm gonna bring on different leaders with different expertise in different areas to talk about how do they navigate through the voices and the challenges and things like that, because we all have voices in our head. We all have things talking to us and trying to fight for our beliefs, trying to fight for control, trying to fight for influence. And so we got to be able to discern what the other voices are that are influencing us, then learn how to filter through those voices so that the only voices that you can hear and that can influence you are the voice of God and the voice of your purpose. Because those are the two main voices that we need to be pay attention to, because the voice of God will always steer us right. The Our purpose will always steer us right. We were created on this earth with a purpose and to lead. And so it's our duty to be able to discern. And when we can discern the negative voices and tune them out and learn how to sharpen our ear to hear the right voices, then we can be able to get this thing going. And so I'm excited because I'm going to be bringing on other leaders to come and have this discussion with me. How have they been able to navigate their own leadership journey while battling and overcoming the noise and the voices that they've been dealing with? So most likely that's going to the start after Thanksgiving. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be a great conversation, and I think it's going to be impactful. Ultimately, it's going to be something that we all can gather, get something from, and be able to be better leaders. We're stepping into 22, and we want to be prepared, right? We want to be prepared for whatever 2022 has for us. So as leaders, when we are able to be fully equipped, right? And equipping is something that takes time, right? You got to take time to be equipped. It's more than just a half day seminar, a half day workshop at your job, which most places companies do, right? It takes more than just a weekend retreat, but it's about constant and consistent building and working together. So, like I said, we're continuing the conversation. I'm going to be bringing on some fresh perspectives, some fresh ideas, some fresh thoughts, and I want you guys to share this video, share it, tag somebody in this video that you know that needs to hear this, because I think this is something that we all battle with, we all deal with. And so, how can we, as the leaders, um, be able to properly navigate through it? Right. So, with that being said, I want to start off the discussion for today, part 3 of the voices in my head. I don't want to do this anymore. The topic for today is I don't want to do this anymore. How many of us, and I want us to be honest, right? Put it in the chat. How many of us have had those moments and had those experiences where, listen, I'm just overwhelmed. I feel tired. I feel burnt out, right? We all get to that point where we feel overwhelmed and we want to give up. We don't only want to throw in the towel. We want to throw in the towel. We want to wave the white flag. We want to drop the mic. We want to walk out the building. We want to run. We want to just pull an Elijah and just start running. Just start running for days. And we want to let me run away for 40 days and go hide in a cave. That's what we want to do sometimes, because we get so overwhelmed. And especially as leaders, right? Because one thing that we got to understand is that as leaders, you are at the forefront. And so, because you have the unique challenge of being first, it's never easy being first. It's never easy trying to navigate the unknown, right? It's never easy to navigate the unknown. And especially when you're trying to build your dream, you're trying to build a vision, right? It's one thing when you're trying to build an idea that has only existed in your imagination, right? But now you're out here trying to make your dreams a reality, right? You're out here, you're tired because you're trying to build bricks without straw. You're trying to bring something that's nothing into existence. And so it becomes overwhelming. Come on, talk to me. It can be overwhelming where sometimes you just want to give up because it just feels like it's not working because we don't have guidance, you don't have any leadership, you don't have anyone steering you, you don't have any assurances that what you're doing is right. You're learning as you're going, you're trying to figure this thing out, and we're out here being MacGyver, right? We're MacGyver out here trying to build your dreams with duct tape and paper clips and chewing gum, right? You're trying to do all this stuff while at the same time battling doubt, while at the same time battling fear, while at the same time um um dealing with the gnawing feeling or the gnawing voice that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're inadequate, right? You're battling with every time you're trying to start something new, every time you try to take a step forward. So you start to remember that your dad wasn't there. You start to remember that your mom didn't support you. You start to remember the times when you shared your dream with somebody and they laughed at you. Every time you want to take a step forward, so you become overwhelmed at times. I know that's something that so someone said the struggle is real because imagine you're trying to deal with all of the battle the negative voices that are speaking to you while building a dream, a big dream with that you're not confident about, that you're building your confidence to, but that you're building, trying to build with the least amount of experience, the least amount of guidance, the least amount of resources, right? Like I said, all of us are straight MacGyver. We're trying to put duct tape and toothpaste and chewing gum together to make this dream and this idea a reality. And so it can become overwhelming. We can get bombarded. And so we all get to that point where the voices in our head is trying to convince us not to give up, to convince us to throw in the towel, to convince us to just quit. And so it's a natural thing, it's a normal thing that we experience. And so let's talk about it tonight. The what is it that causes that overwhelming feeling? What is it that's causing you to feel like you want to give up? What's causing you to feel like throwing in the towel? See, one thing that I come to realize is that we seriously underestimate the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and even the emotional effort that it takes to be who you are, and the effort that it takes to push forward in the very thing that you know that God spoke to you about. Right? You're trying to press through all with everything within you, with every fiber of your body. You're trying to press through to be able to make this thing accomplished, right? To make this thing a possibility, to be a solution to a problem. And in spite of all of that, in spite of all of the effort, you'll have those days where you feel strong enough to press through, and then you'll have the days where you just feel like you're not strong enough. Like I just don't got it. I don't got it today. I know from experience there are plenty of times where I feel like, man, I don't got it. But let's think about it, because even though we get to that point where we want to give up, right? We have to take a moment to stop and recognize that we're equipped with the ability to overcome, right? Sometimes sometimes we got to stop and ask ourselves, why am I still here? A serious question. Put in the chat, why am I still here? Right? Between the moment that you were conceived up until this point of your life, you faced numerous obstacles and challenges, right? You faced numerous things that should have taken you out, that should have ended you, that should have been the end of why you're here, right? We got to stop and ask why, through all of life's challenges, through all of our experiences, right? When you really think about it too, some of these experiences are things that we can talk about now and laugh about, right? You can share those experiences with people and laugh about it. Even though in the moment it was one of the most traumatizing things that you've experienced, but for some reason you were able to overcome it and then be able to talk about it and laugh about it. Right? How many times have you've gathered with family or with friends and you're just sitting back and talking about, man, I remember where we lived in the projects. I remember when we only had bully beef and rice to eat, right? How many times we had conversations, man? I remember when the only thing that we had to eat was Vienna sausage. How many of us used to have the Vienna sausages? Let's tell the truth. We used to have the Vienna sausages, and we used to fry that up with some egg, and that would be breakfast or that would be lunch, right? We all had those experiences, those struggling moments where we talk about it and we remember, right? The bully beef sandwiches. To this day, I'm still traumatized by bully beef sandwiches. Because there was a point where there was the only thing that we had to eat, right? Just some bully beef sandwiches with the hard dough bread. So we've all had these experiences in our lives that in the moment when you think about it, it should have destroyed you. It should have broken you. It should have caused you to go crazy. It should have caused you to give up, to go insane. But for some reason, you're still here. Henry says the bully bee came in clutch. Yeah, it did. And in the moment, right? In the moment, you were so normalized by it that it didn't bother you that it's struggle food, right? You have the cans of spam, right? And one thing that sidebar. One thing I always hated about the bully beef is when you had to turn the key and the key would break, and now you're stuck because you don't have the key anymore to open it. You're like trying to figure out how do I break this metal piece. You trying to use a knife to get through it. The struggle is real. The struggle is real, right? But these are the things that we experience that helped to strengthen us. It helped us to become stronger. It helped us to be resilient. It helped us to be able to. I just says that brother Zahima used to make the spam the bomb though, right? You these comments are killing me. But all of these experiences, right? They should have broken you. They should have made you say, "Listen, I can't do this." It should have been enough to kill your dreams. But for some reason, you're still here today, right? And so there are times where you feel like I want to give up, I want to throw in the towel, but there's always something that keeps you going, right? There's always something that keeps you going. We all have those days where we just say, "Listen, enough is enough. I can't do this. I'm done." Right? I'm done. I'm done with this. I just want to go hide under a cave, under a rock. But the very things that come to challenge you are important because they help to build the resistance. They help to build your resilience, right? You can't grow, you cannot progress without resistance, right? Because when you try to progress without resistance and it becomes too easy, you learn to you don't appreciate it. You don't appreciate it, right? You don't appreciate what you don't work for, what you don't have to fight for. Now, granted, one of the struggles of being a leader is that you always feel like you got to fight for everything. When you're trying to, whether it's a leader in your home, a leader in ministry, whether you're trying to start a business, right? It seems like you have to fight for everything. But it's in those fighting moments and it's in those experiences that builds up your character, that builds up your wisdom, right? It makes sense why James said to count it all joy, right? It talked about patience having its perfect work. All these things come to build us to be patient for the next thing. See, a lot of times we think about it just in the moment, but when you really look at it, what you go through now is to prepare you for the next thing. And then what you go through when you get there is to prepare you for the next thing after that. And then for the next thing after that. And that's how you begin to grow, and that's how you begin to develop. And so it's always that battle, it's always that struggle of dealing with the wanting to give up. Now we tend to have the voices that are voices that try to tell us to throw in the towel, right? A lot of times we have the um negative things telling us that we're not good enough. One of the worst or hardest things to press through and to battle through is that feeling of inadequacy. A lot of times when you think about it, you can endure when people talk about you, you can endure when people hate on you, but it be the biggest one of the biggest and hardest things to press through is feeling I don't know enough, or I don't have what it takes, or I don't have any kind of guidance, I don't have any kind of reassurances that I'm doing the right thing, right? You're navigating and you're moving in the unknown, and you're wondering, am I doing this right? Am I going in the right direction? Am I making progress? Right? Because a lot of times when you're in the dirt and you're digging and you're moving and you're pushing, you don't see the progress in the moment. So every now and again, you want to be able to hear, "Hey, man, look how far you've come," and to kind of get that reassurance that you didn't make a mistake, that you're not going in the wrong direction, right? I believe that as leaders and as people of God, we have to really recognize the importance of faith and the importance of having faith in God, right? Yes, we're emotional beings. Yes, we're mental beings, and so it's easy, especially when you don't see results, that to feel like, man, I'm not going anywhere. It's easy when you're trying to build something different, build something new. You're trying to do something that no one else has done. How do you measure that progress? That's that area. That's that gray area that many of us live in, where because of the fact that we don't know how to measure our progress, we want to give up, because you feel like you're just a hamster on a wheel running in circles. You feel like you're just circling the mountain. You're just going around the mountain when she comes, right? You feel that way because there's no way to measure your progress. How do I know that what I'm doing is the right thing? This is one of the biggest, the loudest voices that we hear in our subconscious, and we don't realize it. That thing called doubt, that uncertainty, right? And so when we are able to recognize that when that voice is speaking, then we can start to maneuver and navigate through that. How do I bring that down and bring up what God is saying, right? You think about these people in the Bible, right? You think about Abraham, and I understand, right? After studying, I understand why Abraham is called the father of faith, because we get the short version, right? We only get a few chapters in the book to talk about Abraham's experience, but you're talking about a man who hears a voice from a God that he's never met, and is told to leave his father's house and is told to go to another land, right? He's told to go and journey to this other place that he doesn't know where it is. He doesn't know how he's going to get there. He doesn't know what it looks like. All he knows is that he hears a voice that tells him to go forward. And many of us, unbeknownst, really are on the Abraham journey where God has given us an idea, and it's an out of the box idea. It doesn't fit in the normal expectations of everybody else, right? There's some things that you want to do in ministry that doesn't fit in the normal expectation of ministry, right? There are things that you want to do that doesn't necessarily fit into the box of church, right? It's something that's outside of the normal Sunday morning service, right? It's outside of praise and worship, and outside of preaching, and outside of prayer. It's outside of youth ministry, right? Or you have a business that is different from what people would expect you to have, right? From where you come from. Many of us were in this leadership journey. We're walking the path of Abraham. We're walking the path where there is no real sense of direction. All we know is that we have something that God has told us to do. And so, in those moments when you feel like you want to give up, and you feel like you don't want to do this anymore, right? The first thing that we have to do is go back to what God originally said. What did God, what did you say to me to begin with? What did you say before when you spoke to me? Right? What was it that you spoke to me about before? What did you tell me to do before? Right? When you go back to the instructions that God has given you, then you are able to kind of remember the why. Why are you doing this? So the thing is that we are all, when we're all born with a why. There's a why to our lives. Why are we here? Why did God birth us or put us in the world at this specific time and this specific moment in time? Right? Because ultimately we were created to be a solution to a problem. Let us remember that we are born with the Spirit of God and the DNA of God, right? The Bible says that we were created in His image and His likeness. So the ability to make a change and the ability to make a difference is why we're here, right? Our first introduction to God is a problem, right? Our first introduction to God is a problem that He faces and solves. In the beginning, right? The Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of God hovered on the deep, right? There was a problem. And so because there was a problem, out of his creative ability, he decided to speak, let there be, and there was. The same function, we have the same function as human beings, right? As people created in his image and in his likeness. The reason why we were born, the day, the time, the month, the year that we were born, the reason why we're alive in this specific time period is because there was an area of darkness that God said, let there be. There was an area of darkness that God said, let there be Susan. Let there be Asha. Let there be Latroy. Let there be Cheryl. There was something in the earth that was lacking, that was missing, and God spoke and said, let there be. And you came into this earth. So when you remember the why, make the why louder than the doubt. There are times where you feel like you don't want to do it anymore. You have to remember why. Why am I doing this? Why am I still here? Right? And let that become a motivation. Let that become a resurgence and a re-energizing of your purpose. Say that we were created with a specific assignment, a specific duty. And so, whenever you feel that way, right, you gotta silence that voice. You gotta silence that voice that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're not equipped enough, that you should just give up and quit. Ultimately, we have more than what we need to be able to succeed. But many of us, like I said in the last live, is that many of us we're underutilize our potential. We live beneath what God has created us to be. It's our duty as leaders to be able to push aside the noise and push forward the why. Another thing that we have to do is you got to take the time to reset. And you guys can check out the live that I did a few weeks ago about resetting and the importance of resetting. But let's not forget that we have to learn to reset. You can become exhausted and overworked because you're trying to figure it out, right? We're all trying to figure this thing out. We're trying to figure it out as we go, right? None of us can say, all right, we have a full blueprint of what we should be doing every day. Every day we're trying to figure it out, right? And so you get exhausted, you get fatigued, right? You fail and you fail and you fail and you gotta fail your way to success. And it requires you learning along the way. It can be intimidating because you feel like you don't know, but when you get to that place where you recognize that I don't need to necessarily know everything, but I'm going to keep pushing. One of the things that I've come to realize, right, is that this thing called life is a game of endurance. It's a game of endurance. How long can you last? Right? Usually when you see anyone who's been doing a particular skill for a long enough period, they get recognized as legends, right? You see, I saw the other day, LL Cool J. LL Cool J got nominated. He got enshrined into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? Why was he able to be recognized as a legend, a legendary artist? Why was he able to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because of his ability to endure, right? He started his journey as a MC and as a rapper, and eventually he's still been able to sustain over the years. The thing about it is that we got to recognize that this thing is about enduring. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? We got to be able to endure. The race is not for the swift, right? We know that, we hear that all the time. The race is not for the swift, right? Not about how fast you can go. And a sidebar to that, right? A sidebar to that is another reason why we feel like we get to that point where we feel like I don't want to do this anymore, because sometimes it seems like everybody is going faster than me. Let's talk about that. Because there are moments where you feel like everybody is going faster than you. Right? I just went on social media not too long before I started the live, and there was a story about a girl who was able to make $5.7 million off of her business in 2 years, right? And you start to feel away. You start to feel like everybody is going faster than me. I'm trying to do this thing. I'm working hard. I'm giving all my effort. I'm giving all my energy. But it seems like everyone is making millions of dollars. Everyone is being successful. All those that are around me are somehow arriving, and I'm still way behind. right? These are the things that we deal with. These are the voices that we deal with, the internal struggles, the internal battles, and the internal warfare that we deal with, right? And it's important that we recognize and acknowledge those things, because ultimately those are the sources of our struggles. So it's easy, especially social media, because if you follow social media, everybody is rich, everybody is wealthy, everybody is established, has already established generational wealth. And it just seems like every 16-year old, every 14-year old is more wealthy than we are. But of course, it's a carefully crafted storyline. And granted, they may possibly have accomplished a certain level of financial freedom, right? Financial status. But just because you have financial status doesn't mean that you're making an impact. See, that's the thing that we got to recognize. Because you can make $10 million tomorrow and die and no one show up to your funeral. You can be the most successful entrepreneur there is, and still not have an impact on the lives of others. So it's not really about the money, even though the world makes it about the money. What it's all about, and the whole point of this game, and the whole point of this thing called life, is how many people can I impact in the time that I have on this earth. When you can be able to have an impact, guess what? The influence and the impact that I'm able to have on your life, you can turn around and start to have influence on 20 people, on 20 people's lives that you met, and they can go and influence 100 people, and they can go and influence 1,000 people. And it started off with just me being an influence to you, right? So now the impact is multiplying rather than adding up. So it's all of these things that we have to take into consideration. We got to be able to refocus and reset, to remember the why, and to remember um the reason why God put us here. Because maybe your purpose here is not to become rich. Maybe your purpose is not to make millions of dollars, right? Maybe your purpose is to help someone who is homeless, help someone who needs help in education. These are the things, right? And that's the unfortunate thing, is that we don't appreciate our teachers as much as we appreciate our entertainers. That's one of the downfalls of our society today. We don't appreciate the teachers that have impact on our lives. We just appreciate the entertainers that make us feel good. Why is it that to be a teacher you have to have 10 years of experience and then be okay with a $35,000 salary, but you can be a basketball player or an athlete and sign a 4-year deal for $160 million? These are some of the things that you got to look, that we have to really evaluate, because we put emphasis on the wrong things sometimes. But that that's my soapbox. But want us to understand that whenever you get to that place of wondering or feeling like I don't want to do this, I'm not equipped enough to do this, ask yourself, why am I still here? Why am I on this earth? Why did God create me? Why did God make me to be the person that I am today? Because life situations will not break you, right? We have the instinct of God, and our instinct is our the instinct of God keeps us in that place where Well, there's always a way of escape. The thing is that we got to recognize that there's always a way of escape. So no matter how difficult the challenges you're going through, there's always a way of escape. And ultimately it's to help you, to prepare you for the next thing. And so these are the things that you gotta use to combat the voices that are in your head, the voices that make you feel like you're not good enough, the voices that make you feel afraid, the voices that make you doubt whether or not you're doing the right thing. If you were doing the wrong thing, you wouldn't have gotten as far as you've gotten. Because one thing I can appreciate about the God that we serve is that He always knows how to steer us in the right direction. He always knows how, right? We hear all the time the scripture that says that the steps of a righteous man are ordered. God is always ordering our steps. And so, yes, there are times where you feel like there isn't a form of measurement for to show you that you're progressing. But trust and believe that if you've gotten this far, that there's further to go. And it takes you having that faith to step out and go for it. Yes, there'll be days where you fail. Yes, there'll be days where you'll be exhausted. Yes, there'll be days where you feel like you feel like Bruno Mars. I don't feel like doing anything at all, right? There are days where you just feel like it. And it's okay to give yourself that grace that, all right, today I don't got it, but tomorrow I'm gonna go for it. We got to learn to give ourselves grace because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so, yes, social media will tell us all these things. This person made $1 million, and this person invested in this stock, and they became they especially now with this whole investing thing in this cryptocurrency, right? You see people talk about how they invested in a stock. Like I remember when AMC, people invested in AMC and made money off of it. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden now everyone is running to stock to try to figure out what they can invest in, what's the next big thing to invest in so that they can make money quick. But quick doesn't always mean that it's going to last. And so sometimes you got to separate yourself from social media. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine today, and we were talking about the fact that sometimes you got to separate yourself from social media because social media is a lie. It's a carefully constructed image of someone else's life to make it seem like everything is great. You shared a story that one of his friends posted a picture of them on vacation, and he went to the supermarket and saw them bagging groceries, right? You have those people that make it seem like 365 days a year they're on vacation, right? Or you see these celebrities that post and they coming out of the private jet, or they're coming out of the Maserati, and so you makes you feel like you're not doing enough. It makes you feel like you're slow. As hard as I'm trying to run, as hard as I'm pushing, as hard as I'm trying to build, it just feels like I'm not moving fast enough. You see these rappers that have the money stacks, right? And it just makes you feel like, God, I'm serving you. God, I'm trying to have an impact. God, I'm trying to help people's lives. But yet they're the ones that are rolling around with stacks of money, taking pictures with them. None of that means anything. It doesn't matter how fast you go, it's about how far you go. We gotta realize that. So I rather take my time and build a strong foundation than to rush and build my foundation on sand. Because you only know how strong you are by your ability to endure the very hardships that we're running from. The very hardships that you dealt with, that you've had to battle through, that you had to press through, that you had to experience. Those are the things that prove how strong and how much of a quality your foundation is. We've all been through some things that we don't share, right? We've all had experiences in our lives that we don't share with anybody, that was so damaging and so hurtful, but yet you're still here. It was designed to kill you. It was designed to break you down. It was designed to put you in a broken emotional state, to keep you in a broken mental state. But for some reason, by the grace of God, you're still here. And so I want us to recognize that, and as we move in, as I said before, we're moving into the time of Thanksgiving, right? We got to take that time to thank God for what He has brought us through, right? And not in the cliche way, way of doing it, where we want to tell our story and we exaggerate our testimony, but in a way where we're truly appreciative to God for what He has done for us and how He has brought us through. Right? Everyone's through is different. My what God has brought me through is different from what God has brought you through. But I've grown to a place where I can appreciate the things that I've gone through, and I can appreciate the things that you've gone through, because it helped to establish that character. It helped to build that sense of purpose. It helped to fuel your passion. And ultimately, in those days where you feel like, I don't want to do this anymore, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out. But when I remember where I was last year, when I remember when 5 years ago, when I was in this situation that I shouldn't have been in and I shouldn't have made it out of, I can thank God. Right? When I was gripped, I should have been arrested. I should have been a statistic. All of these things. I should be in the mental institution. All of these things that we've dealt with. It was to equip us so that we can be prepared for our future purpose. It was all to help mold us, to shape us so that we can grow and become what we were created to become. And so you got to remember the why. You got to remember that it's not a race. You got to remember that it's a marathon. You got to remember that it's not about what you have, but it's about what you do and what you've done with what you have. All of these things are so important for us on our leadership journey to remember and to take into consideration, to combat the very voices and the negativity that's telling us otherwise. So I want us to think about that. And I want to leave you with that tonight, because why are you still here? If you're still here, that means that that you have a purpose. That means that you have a job to do. And so what you're going through is not enough to take you out. Because if it was, it would have took you out already. But it gives a new meaning to what doesn't kill you, make you stronger. We have to learn as leaders to get to that point where we can minimize and turn the volume down on the very things that are speaking contrary to our purpose, and speaking contrary to the word of God that He's spoken concerning us. Right? I thank God for my wife, because I've learned so much from her when as it comes to the prophetic, and it comes to um something that CBT, which we're gonna discuss down the line. But so many things I've learned from her in understanding the voice of God, and understanding the power of prophetic ministry, the power of hearing what God has to say. Because every now and again you get to that place where you just want to give up, and sometimes God will send a prophetic voice to come and speak to you, to remind you of his plan. He'll send somebody with an encouraging word to help you remember that you have a purpose, to help you remember that he hasn't forgotten about you, to remember that you're doing the right thing. We have to step out of faith. We have to push ourselves to the point where we recognize that even though we don't have what we need to help reassure us, we really do have what we need to reassure us. God has equipped us internally with everything that we need. He's surrounded us with people who are designed to help push us into our purpose. He's sent voices to us to help us combat the negative voices that we hear in our head. And so, with the voices in our head, we have to be able to silence those things and listen to only the voices that helped us to progress forward, not the things that are pulling us back, not the voices of the past that are trying to get us to remember our shame, to remember the times of embarrassment and rejection and failure and fear and doubt and all of these things. But let's hone into the voices that are designed to encourage, that are designed to empower, that are in designed to teach us how to move forward. That's what we got to tune into. That's what we got to pay attention to. And I get it. The challenge that you faced were difficult. It was hard. It was tough. It hurt. It made you cuss. It made you want to fight. But nevertheless, you're still here. And so, because you're still here, guess what? Everything that has happened, all those other voices don't matter. They have no power, because if they had power, they would have kept us at that point where we were. And so, I want to leave that with us tonight. I want us to recognize that we have what we need to be able to succeed as leaders. We have what we need to be able to excel in our God-given purpose, right? In the Bible app, there was someone who gave an encouraging word that said that humility is about maximizing the God-given space that you have, right? Being able to fully occupy the space that God has created for you. And my desire for each and every one of us as leaders is for us to operate the full potential, the full space that God has put us in, so that we can have an impact, so that someone else can be able to step into their purpose, so that we can be able to build the things that were a part of our imagination. And so I hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to get something from it. As I said, my desire is to help you realize that you have a voice, and that you have the ability as a leader to have an impact on your world. It starts with you impacting those that are around you. And when you can be able to successfully do that, then you can be able to successfully operate as a leader. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was encouraging. I hope this is something that you can take with you for the rest of this week, that you can take it with you throughout the Thanksgiving time as you're eating your turkey and you're eating your mac and cheese and your cranberry sauce and your pumpkin pie and all those things. As you're eating and as you're enjoying family and you're spending the time, take the time to appreciate what you have, appreciate who you are. We don't appreciate who we are enough. This is the last thing I'm saying, and I'll close out. You got to learn to appreciate who you are. I know that you have struggles. You know that you have struggles. We all have struggles, and it's very easy to always focus on our insufficiencies. It's very easy to focus on our flaws. But take the time to appreciate you. Take the time to thank God for you, and to thank God for what He has made you to be. So I want to leave that with you all. Thank you so much for everything. I'm excited to continue this conversation. As I said, going to be bringing on other leaders that are going to join me to bring a fresh perspective and fresh ideas and tips and tricks on how to overcome the voices in our head. But recognize that the voices that are the negative voices are not greater than the voice of God. And it's not greater than the positive voices that we need to focus on. It's just about redirecting your focus, redirecting your perspective, and stepping into all that God has called you to be. And so, with that, I love you all. I appreciate you all. Have a good night, and I'll see you next week. God bless.